Good gaming, everyone. I'll try not to hold you for too long. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll get you in and out of here faster than you can say. So, not Dino Crisis? Sorry to bother you. I know we watch YouTube the way we used to watch TV, but we have no sponsors, especially for smaller channels. So, leaving a like would be very kind of you. Very, very kind of you. And I thank you very much. Let's continue. So, today we'll be starting a series of videos which I consider kind of a buyer's guide called Games FaceOff, putting two similar games against each other to see which one you should buy if you only had enough for one full price game. Luckily, these two games are pretty separated as far as release dates. The first, which is Exoprimal, is coming out on July 14th, which also will be free on Game Pass, if you consider that free. And the second will be HellDivers 2, which is coming out later this year. So let's face off. Number one. So, what's the story? Exoprimal kinda has a convoluted story. It's 2040, and an AI named the Leviathan is opening random portals. And out of the portals are coming waves of dinosaurs. Somehow there's a company prepared for this random event called Ibius, who makes exosuits the likes of Iron Man's armor, but with much more melee and martial arts capability. On the other end, HellDivers 2 story is pretty by the numbers. You're basically a team of soldiers invading alien planets to secure resources for your planet. But it's in its execution that lends some entertainment to its story. Whereas it seems Exoprimal is inadvertently campy, HellDivers 2 is completely self aware of itself. And it is intentional in its humorous dialogue and storytelling. There doesn't seem like there will be any in depth character building or relationship building between characters, but it is at least interesting in its shallow storytelling. Number two, what about gameplay, you ask? Exoprimal. Two teams fight off these waves of dinosaurs and also fight each other using melee and projectile attacks. They also have the use of light shields for defense, auto turrets, and floating platforms for positioning. There will be different classes of exosuits. The usual classes we see in class-based multiplayer: Assault for damage dealing, Tank for damage absorbing and team protection, and the Support class for buffs and healing. Each class has three or more suits that have different attributes and perks to support different playstyles even within its class. Aside from the RPG elements, you will be able to control dinosaurs a la Horizon Forbidden West, Horizon Zero Dawn, but in this case, it can be used to attack the competing team. There will also be another mode called Savage Gauntlet, which is basically two teams competing in a time attack mode, and each mode progresses the story. HellDivers 2, on the other hand, is a co op third person shooter, but it involves a lot more strategy and tactics. Instead of waves of dinosaur cannon fodder, there are alien bugs, and if we can judge by the first game, a tech based race and cyborgs. But also, what separates the two is there are a lot less enemies on screen. But they are pretty heavily armored. For that reason, players have to use what is called stratagems, which is basically ground support for soldiers. The soldiers you'll be playing in HellDivers 2 have access to auto turrets, kind of like Exoprimal, but these turrets are a lot more impactful, seeing as you're basically only a soldier on a battlefield with a little bit of armor, instead of the Black Panther Tony Stark mech warrior. You do, however, have access to a vast array of powerful stratagems, such as the Super Earth Destroyer, which is an orbital to land laser strike similar to the Hammer of Dawn from Gears of War, or the Eagle Fighter, which is similar to an airstrike from Call of Duty. You'll also be calling for more powerful weapons like rocket launchers, heavy machine guns, lasers, flamethrowers, jetpacks, mechs, and armor piercing weapons. You'll even have to call in for ammo resupply. What adds to the strategy is the way you summon stratagems, which is through entering a series of directional button presses, and the way they are delivered. Stratagems don't just materialize on the battlefield, they are dropped from orbit real time and have real effects, meaning they have weight and, best of all, damage and crushing ability. Not only to your enemies, but your teammates. Even the drop pods you respawn with can hurt anyone on the map, leading to a real need for mic communication between players. As when you know where your stratagem is going to drop, you'll have to warn your teammates to move from that area. Not only can you hurt your enemies that way, or your teammates that way, but friendly fire is always on, meaning you can shoot or explode your teammates, and you'll have to maneuver or tell your teammates to move out of your line of fire. They've also accounted for power depletion due to distance, meaning if you're too far from an armored target, the bullets may just deflect as opposed to when you are closer. Like Exoprimal, HellDivers 2 supports different playstyles. So far, they've spoken on a tankish armor with heavy resistance to damage, and a lighter armor which gives the player increased mobility and seemingly decreases how quickly enemies detect you, seemingly granting you those up-close armor-piercing attacks I spoke about before. Also, co-op tactics like reloading your teammate for faster reload animation. Both games will give you open maps, but no news of open worlds. And in the first HellDivers, there was procedurally generated maps as well. Number 3. What about the enemies? Exoprimal has the typical roster of aggressive dinosaurs, your T-Rexes, Raptors, Triceratops, Pteranodons, etc. Then it brings new, Pokemon-esque dinosaurs with special powers called Neosaurs, using fire, ice, lightning, etc. No real explanation as to how these dinosaurs were mutated yet, but I hope it's not just an excuse to create boss fights in the game. HellDivers 2 has a variety of giant bugs with varying armor sturdiness and capabilities, such as hovering, jump attacks, and spitting acids and projectiles. In the first game, you also fought a faction of tech-focused enemies called the Illuminate, and a faction of cyborgs that require anti-armor weaponry. Number 4. Visuals and effects. Though HellDivers 2 is made by a much smaller developer, the previews and footage shown thus far seem to imply much more care was put into the visuals and effects of HellDivers 2. Some maps have beautiful weather conditions and effects, such as lightning, snow, wind, and rain, that affect battlefield visibility and even mobility in snow environments and swamps. Where in the first game you were able to buy all-terrain boots, which lowered the slowing effect of the ground. Number 5. Extras. Exoprimal will have cosmetic-based monetization, but also extra exosuits that can only be acquired via purchase. With HellDivers 2, if you couldn't tell, the first game had monetization, which were packs that were about $3 each, which contained a suit, a weapon, and a stratagem, and also had an expansion. No news on monetization for the second game though. So whether you prefer Exoprimal, which gives you the feeling of a tech superhero in a almost apocalyptic event, or the strategic spontaneity, almost survival-ish elements of HellDivers 2, both these games are worth a purchase in my opinion. But I particularly would choose HellDivers 2. What say you? Who do you think won this face-off? Put it down in the comments. I thank you for being a part of this. See you next time.